Hello everyone. Here's today's problem. Imagine we have a folder, and within that folder are a load of files that have just been dumped in there by our colleagues. They haven't been named properly, so when we come to look anything up, we haven't got a chance. Let's make a script that will automate renaming all the files that we care about, according to some logical pattern. This is a nice little problem to hone our Python skills on. Follow along to see how I would go about solving this. Let's do this. Here is our folder. As you can see, there are a few files in there. The naming system is atrocious, with no kind of logic to it. Can you imagine if there were a few hundred files in here? Let's create a new file for our script. I'll call mine batch renamer.py. If you're following along, then feel free to call your script whatever you want. Just don't forget the .py at the end. When I start a new script, I sometimes find it helpful to write down in broad strokes what I want to do. One way to do this is just by writing a few comments to help us. We know the script will need to know where the files are. We can also define what type of files we are interested in. Next, we need some way of actually finding all the files within our folder. We don't want to manually write down each file name. Once we've done that, I think it would be a good idea to sort the files, so that when we name the files, we do so in chronological order. For example, file name 1, file name 2, and so on. You can rename them however you like. This is just an example to show you the principle. Once we have the files and they are in order, we can get to the point of the whole script and rename them. Great. We have the outline of a very simple script for renaming our files. Let's start filling this out. For where the files are, let's define a variable to hold the path of our files. We will hardcode this to the folder here. The folder we're interested in is called folder full of files, so we'll set our folder path variable to this. Great. Next, we need to narrow the file type down. For our example, we only have text files in the folder, so we could skip this. I'll do it, so if we want to apply this to another more messy folder, it'll be ready for that. I'll set another variable called extension to a string containing .txt to represent text files, as those are the files in our folder. So far so good, and so easy. Now, we have something a bit more difficult. We need to be able to find all the files we are interested in renaming. We want some automatic way of doing this, as we don't want to be typing in every file each time we run this script. Whenever I find I need some piece of functionality, the first place I go to is good old Google. Let's search for Python find files in directory. Here's a likely looking answer. Okay, look, this answer uses something called the glob library. Using glob, we can find all files within a folder with a certain pattern. In the example, glob will find all files which end in .txt. Cool. It turns out glob comes with Python out of the box. To access glob's functionality from our script, all we need to do is let Python know by importing it in our script. Let's do that now. I'll add import glob, and that's it. We can now use glob in our code. Let's create a variable called matching files to hold the file names our script finds in the folder. Let's take the code straight from the example. Often, writing code is about lifting code from other places and adapting it slightly to our own needs. Let's adapt this snippet now. This argument is nearly right. We just need to add our folder path, followed by the wildcard, represented by the asterisk, followed by the extension. Great, what we have here will find all text files within our folder. Let's prove that by printing the output up to now. Printing stuff to the console is an easy way of debugging our code. I do this regularly to make sure the code is doing what I want it to. Let's run it. There. We can see our script has found all the files in our folder. Notice that matching files is an array, basically a list of things or objects, containing the paths for each file. Great. Let's move on to the next part. We need to order our files in some way. The most logical way to me would be to order them by the time they were created. There are many ways to go about this, but I think I will create a new array and put in a dictionary for each file. Each dictionary will hold the file path and the timestamp for when the file was created. I should then be able to sort this array and use it to start renaming. Okay, cool. We have a plan. I will build up my array using a for loop. I will simply loop through all the files within my matching files array. Okay, now how do we get the data file was created? Back to our trusty search engine. Let's search for Python date created of file. Let's see, this looks good. We can use the OS module to get the time a file was modified. And, look here, the time it was created. Just what we want. Let's lift this bit of code and put it straight into our script. Let's modify it by changing the argument. There. Now, let's create the dictionary. And append it to our array. Great! Again, let's do a bit of a debugging print. Great, an error. It looks like our script doesn't know what OS is. We forgot to import it. Fixed. Let's try again. Great. To make it a bit clearer, let's only print the first element of our array. Cool. Looks good so far. Now we need to sort our array so that the oldest file is at the start of the array, and the youngest file is at the end. Back to Google once more, my friends. Let's see, searching for Python sort array of dictionaries. And trusty Stack Overflow comes through for us yet again. Here's a nice little snippet that will get us what we need. Let's put that in. And modify to suit our variable names. Great. This will sort our file info array in order of date created. Fantastic. We are so close. Let's print this new array to see what we have. Can you see that the order of the files has changed? Last bit now. To rename our files, we will use a for loop and set up an integer to increment each time we rename a file. We'll use this integer as part of the new file name so that each file will be sequentially numbered. But wait. How can we rename a file? Back to Google one last time. Let's search for Python rename file. Here we go. This is a nice simple file in the OS module. Let's do the usual thing. Lift the code and modify it. I'll add the path of the file as the source, the src bit. And then, I'll add the file name we want as the destination argument, the dst bit. Let's call each file my important text file number, and then the number we are up to, starting with 0 and working our way up. There. That should do it. Now comes the moment of truth. If we've done everything correctly, when we execute this script, our files should all be renamed according to the new naming convention we set. Let's do it. It worked. Great. There it is. We now have a simple script for batch renaming files in a folder. But wait, don't stop now. If you've been following along and want a bit of a challenge, I have 2 ideas for you. Number 1. Remember when we got the data file was created? The function we used was specifically for Windows. If you are on a Mac, can you adapt the script to work on your platform? For the second challenge, can you adapt the script so that it will work on either Windows or Mac without any user input? Post in the comments if you manage to do it. Also, if you have any ideas for improvements, please do post those as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you again very soon.